Hi, welcome to Let's Create a Gift. We're going to go over a few different things today that come up fairly often when people are starting out. So for this, you can use any size hook, any size yarn that you want. This is really just a practice. So I'm currently making this scarf. It's a mixture of Red Heart yarn. So this is Red Heart Super Saver in Woodsy colourway, and then I've got this Red Heart Soft. It is a little bit tricky to work with. It does split quite easily, but it is really, really soft. But like I say, you can use anything for this. The stitch I'm using today is a half treble crochet in UK terms, or half double crochet in US terms. And so we're going to cover joining yarns, weaving in your ends, changing colour, and obviously where to start and end on a row so that you get a nice straight piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is, obviously this ball has run out, so I'm near the end, and I want to attach another one of the same colour. Now I am going to show how to change colours afterwards, and you can do this as well if, if you're on a yarn end. But what I'll just do, so that I don't accidentally pull it loose, is pop a stitch marker in. So this is one that I've made. Well, there's a little silver lobster clasp, if you're looking for them on eBay, and then a little charm on the bottom. It can be a little bit more pricey. I do make and sell them myself now, not very expensive. Or you can buy job lots of these, which I had from when I very first started, little plastic ones. These are good for chunky yarn because they have quite a big hole in them, but obviously they are plastic and I do lose them quite a lot. So I've popped that in there. Stitch markers are really good for this so that you don't lose your yarn, because without that, if you pull it, it'll all undo. So this one is, I think it's called a Russian join, which is a really easy way to join two pieces of yarn when you're not bothered where the join's actually going to show up. So it might be easier if I lay it flat to show you. So this is the piece from the yarn that I'm currently working with, and this is the new one that we want to join. So if you pop that one over the top, so you've got your two short ends at the top and it crosses in the middle. Then we're going to take this one and you're basically going to tie a knot on each end. So this is from the new ball. I'm going to tie a knot and pull that tight. So that's now tied onto there. So this thread is the one from the piece of work that I'm working with, and you're going to use this and tie it around the yarn from the new ball. So I've now got two knots on there, one from the new ball and one from the old ball. And then all you're going to do is your two long ends, so the piece attached to your ball and the piece attached to your yarn, just pull those. That will pull the two pieces together, and then that is not going anywhere. This knot you can then work over in your work. So that's a really, really easy way to either change colour if you're not bothered where the join's going to be, or if you're running out of one ball and attaching a new ball, if you don't mind the knots in your work, and they do cover up really easily. So I'm going to continue doing my half trebles now, or half double in the US. So that's yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop, and then pull through all three. And again, this is another bit that often throws people off. It's where your row ends. So you need to make sure you don't miss the last stitch of your row. I'll show that again in a moment. Let's just get this knot worked over first. Turn. Coming up to the knot. So what I like to do is have it so that it's sort of where the stitch is. Ignore those two loose ends and pull up your loop as normal. Then on your next one, lay your ends over like that and work over them. This is how I like to cover my ends. And then you would continue working as normal. You can, if you prefer to weave in your ends, you can also do it that way by leaving the tail on those long and use a needle to weave them in. So I'll show you both options in a minute. Just going to carry on half treble crochet and I can show you how to change colour. So half treble crochet all the way along. This is now where my knot was. So you can't see the knot. So this extra bit here, we can just snip that off. And now you can't see where the join was. And that covers up really well. So what I'm doing on this particular scarf is the colour changes. I'm increasing each row. So I also need to be able to count rows. So I've started off here. I've got 1, 2, 3. Then I've got 4 of the next colour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I've got 8 and 8. So I've got 16 altogether, but that was my halfway point. So that's the halfway point of my scarf, again with a stitch marker. So this one, I'm going to want 7. So the easiest way to count yours, you can go to the end and do it. I'll count sort of each one of these knots is a row. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this that I'm working on is 7. So that means I'm now going to be changing colour to the pale brown one. So there's 2 ways that you can change colour. The easiest way, if you don't want knots in your work, is when you get to your last stitch. Now, if you get to the end and you're not sure if that was your last stitch or that is, the easiest way is to count. So I know I've got 20 stitches. That's another reason why being able to count your stitches is important. So you can either do it by counting the V shapes on the top there, and you can do it by counting the V's there. So there's my first one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Might be easier to pop it down actually. There we go. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. But I know I need 20 on each row. So that means that this one here is my last stitch. If you're ever unsure, a count is always helpful. Otherwise, you'll end up with wonky work. So if that was my last stitch and I wasn't changing colour, I would just go into the last stitch and then chain 1, turn, continue. But as this is the last one, what I'm going to do now is start your treble as you normally would. So you're going to yarn over. Same for any stitch really, but you're not going to finish the stitch. So that's where you've got your half treble, and usually you would then yarn and pull through and you'd be done. What I'm going to do, because I'm changing colour, is get the new colour. Okay, just pop it around your finger so you've got a loop, and pull that loop, pull that loop through instead. Does it mean about it splits quite easily? So I've pulled that loop through instead. Leave this relatively long so that you can weave it in. You've got plenty to weave in. So leave your green one behind. Sorry, that's a bit blurry. Leave your green one behind. Pick up your new one now, the long end. And then carry on as you normally would. So that would be a chain 1 and turn. And then treble into every stitch. Then what you can do is you can cut off your green, because that's now securely fastened in. That's not going to go anywhere, even if you pull that tight. And then you would weave that in at the end. Okay, so that's one way you can change colour. The other way you can do it, which I find a little bit more secure if I'm doing a garment that I know is going to be washed a lot, is I would yarn over, pull up a loop, and go through all 3 as I normally would to finish that row, then chain 1, and you can then snip your green, or whatever colour you're using, snip that and pull, but make sure you've done your chain 1 before you pull this out, otherwise your work will unravel. Get the short end and pull really tight. That's now done and not going anywhere. Then you can get your new colour again, go through that last stitch that you made, pull your new colour through and tie it in a knot. That's also tied on and not going to go anywhere. Now, I don't mind that some people hate having knots in the work, but with something like this, it doesn't really matter because you won't see it once you've worked through. So I've now got the green that I cut off, and I've got the brown end that I've cut off. So pick up your new colour. Now with these, again, there's two different ways you can deal with these ends. You can either leave them all dangling out of the end, and you can weave those in with a needle afterwards. Or, I've got my new colour on. I'm now working on the right side, so I'm going to pull the new colour through and chain one, because that's what I've done at the start of every row. And then I'm going to treble, but as I treble, these two loose ends here, keep hold of those and just lay them on top of your work, so over your stitches. So when you yarn over and go through, pull up your loop and finish your stitch, and you'll see that my two loose ends are now going through my work. They're sort of going under the stitches. So again, lay it flat, do your stitch as normal. This works for any stitch, so whether it's singles, doubles, doesn't matter, and continue to work along, like say maybe 3, 4, however many you want, stitches like that. And now see your ends are now in the middle of your work, so you can either just snip those and leave them as they are. They won't go anywhere, they won't unravel your work because you've got the knot here hidden, which you can't see. Or if you don't want to work over your ends, you can weave them in with a needle instead, which I have a little pot of all my goodies in here, all my little odds and ends, so that I don't lose them. Okay, so then, bigger needle will be easier to see. So if you don't want to work over the ends, you would have the ends left over at the end of your work. You can weave them in like this. So thread your needle, and then all you're going to do is go back through your work, so under this bit here, I'd usually say 3 times, so go back one way. Obviously these are already worked in, so this isn't necessary if you've worked your ends in, because they'll be fine as they are. Don't pull them too tight. If you pull them too tight, it'll pull all your stitches up and make your work look uneven, so leave that loose. And then again, go back the other way. So what you're going to do is weave in and out, so down, up, down, up. And that would be plenty to secure your work. So again, don't pull it really tight because you'll make your work uneven. Pull it back loose. And now you can snip these off. And the biggest tip I would give anybody, because the biggest bugbear of pretty much every crocheter I know is weaving in the ends. Do it as you go along. I really should practice what I preach because often I don't, but as you'll see on this one, I've worked over all of mine. So I've now got no ends at the end to weave in. A nice even colour changes. Okay, so now we've changed colour, we can work all the way to the end. So again, if you're not sure where your last stitch is going to be, count. You can either count as you go along or count when you get to the end. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's in 5. And I want 20, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Now I know I want 20. If you're really struggling with counting, this is also a good place to use your stitch marker. So you know that that stitch there is 20. So if you get a stitch marker, pop it through that stitch there, you know that that is stitch number 20. So I'm going to chain 1, or you can chain 2, it's half double crochet anyway. And you need to work back into that stitch, so it helps when you're turning, because in this instance, this chain that I do does not count as my stitch. So that means I still have to work into this first stitch. That's something that you have to take note of on patterns. It'll either say the chain does count as a stitch or the chain doesn't count as a stitch if you're working your way around or backwards and forwards in a piece. So because it doesn't count as a stitch, I'm going to work in this one because that was the last stitch of the previous row. If it did count as a stitch, I would miss this one because I'd have, say, a chain 2 in there, and I would then go to the next one. So hopefully that will help when it comes to reading patterns. Now you know where you're working. I don't need that stitch marker in there. It just helps if you're chaining, if you're not sure. That was just to try and highlight it for you. So now that I've done the first stitch of the next round, I know that this here is my first stitch. I'll do the same on the other end. So when you do your first stitch, pop your stitch marker in there. Continue to work all the way along using whatever stitch it is that you're using, whether it's a single and double or doubles and trebles, half doubles, half trebles like I'm using. Should have done it in the other end to make this a bit quicker actually. So I'll pretend I did that before, but this works either way. Just put it in the first stitch, and then when you get all the way to the end of the row, this should save you having to count. I'll just quickly get to the end of the row for you. The stitch marker now, because you've put it in the first stitch of the row, and you know it was the first stitch because you did it and you've not to do any other counting, is when you get to the end now, your stitch marker will then be in the last stitch of the row. So you'll know where your row ends and you won't end up with wonky crochet. So that's number 19. The stitch marker I placed in the first stitch when I turned. Obviously I didn't, I've just done it now, but I know where my stitch is. You then know that that is stitch number 20. So you can go ahead and work your last stitch in there. Take your stitch marker out. Turn your work, obviously not counting that chain again. Go into the first stitch and then replace your stitch marker. So now you'll have a stitch marker in the first stitch of every row, and you'll know where that stitch is, where the last stitch on the end of each row is. Saves you having to count. So there was quite a lot covered in that video. Obviously you've got counting your rows, counting your stitches, where to place stitch markers, attaching yarn with, I'm pretty sure it's called a Russian join, or magic knot, I think I've seen people call it. So we've changed yarns using that, we've changed colour by doing it on the stitches, we've done working over your ends and weaving in your ends. So obviously there's quite a lot on that video. You can break it down. I'll try and put in the comments where each bit is in case you need to come back and just double check anything. But that's it. I will carry on making my scarf. Don't forget you can come and join us in the Crochet Collective on YouTube. And I'd really like if you can give the video a like and click the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, but it just helps my videos get seen by more people and hopefully help more people learn to crochet because it's fun. Thanks very much. Have a nice day. Cheers. Bye.